Assalamu alaikum, my dear friends. It's good to be with you. Um, the topic of Salah is a topic that seems to never run out. If you open a fiqh book, a book on, the rituals of Islam, the rules and the rituals, what you'll also find is that Salah, normally with the normal religious rituals, Salah is the biggest chapter. So you have the 5 pillars, right? In Sunni Islam, you have 5 pillars. You have the kalima shahada, to say la ilaha illallah. There is the salah, zakah, hajj, and fasting. But of the 4 rituals, hajj, fasting, zakah, and salah. Salah is, if you open the books, it occupies easily 80%, 70% of a fiqh book. Well, there is the Kitab al-Tahara, which leads into Salah. So Tahara often is connected to Salah. So you can almost say that Tahara is, wudu, ghusl, and so on. It's always linked to Salah. And so this is the topic that probably defines the life of a Muslim. I have so many meet many people that are encountering Islam, and the topic that I think that most vexes them is the topic of the 5 daily salahs, because it literally becomes you. The salah 5 times a day, the wudu that goes with that, the washing that goes with that, and then the type of intrusiveness of that ritual in your daily life. And I think for the pious Muslim, it's almost a proof of your commitment. It's a rite of passage, right? And so for Muslims to be Muslim, Salah has become a rite of passage. It's an extremely invasive, intrusive, ongoing commitment that demands a level of commitment that no other religion demands. Like Christianity, you pretty much it's in your mind and it's in your heart, and but there is no similar ritual, even with Judaism, even with Hinduism. But with Islam, the type of pervasiveness, the ubiquitousness nature of Salah, by having to wash and to pray every few hours, I think that makes it such a central ritual in Islam. And that is why, if you speak to a Muslim, the average Muslim, they will rather eat pork. Those who are in the habit of the 5 daily prayers. You could get them to drink a sip of wine, you could get them to, whatever. But those 5 daily prayers, they are married to them, and they will never ever compromise on them. In fact, what I see often is that even though some of them might not be able to make them on time during the day, they will then almost like make them all in tandem at night. So they will go through a lengthy process of catching up with prayers, with salawat that they were not able to perform, like Dhuhr, Asr. So they come home and then they've skipped Maghrib, and then they will go and make 4 salahs in tandem, and I've seen that very, very often. And so that is why this is such an important topic for us to discuss. You see, Salah, if it is not necessarily, if that is not the necessarily intended meaning with Salah. Now, of course, we know when we study the Qur'an, when you open the Qur'an in the very first chapter, in fact chapter 2, but in the very first few pages, it says Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. ألف لام ميم ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين الذين يؤمنون بالغيب ويقيمون الصلاة. So there the Salah comes in the very first few sentences of the Qur'an. So it appears there, and then it appears intermittently throughout the Qur'an. In fact, almost to the end. الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنْ صَلَاتِهِمْ سَاهُونَ. So that word Salah is, you cannot deny the centrality of this concept of Salah. Salah is absolutely and evidently and undoubtedly, if you look at the Qur'an, the tens of times, I think we counted 100 and something times that the term appears, there is no doubt that this is a central feature of Islam. So, the problem that people like me have, and this is, I know, this falls in the category of troublesome knowledge. Now, when we teach people, when we try and impart knowledge to a person, there is what is referred to as threshold knowledge or troublesome knowledge. This is knowledge that can be demonstrated, that can be proven at the hand of evidence, but which the learner is unable to process due to other outside factors. So if you tell a person for the first time the earth is not flat, and goodbye flat earthers at this point, I think you should switch for a while. If you tell a person the earth is, if you told a person 1,000 years ago that the earth is not flat, which every sense, every fabric, every fiber of their being is telling them it's flat. Look around you, it's flat. The horizon is straight. But if you then bring mathematical proof and you use the stars and you use the declination and you use the altitude and you do a mathematical proof, in which I absolutely can conduct by using the highest star in the sky, then using that proof will not necessarily convince that person. The same with a person, who's used to doing something silly like touching a statue on the way out. When you, in the morning when you leave your home, there's a statue of a deity, maybe called Hubal, and for good luck that day you have to touch the leg of Hubal when you leave your house. If you try and convince that person touching the leg of Hubal when you leave your house doesn't mean anything, it doesn't help you, it doesn't prevent you from bad luck. It is something that is ingrained in your mind, and you should refrain from doing that. Or if people come home and they say, no, it's bad luck to come home and get in through the front door, go through the side door, it's bad luck. Now, the ancient Arabs were replete. They were snowed under by these good luck charms, these practices which gave them good luck and which avoided bad luck. In fact, everything in nature, when they saw birds, they used to see those birds as a good luck or a bad luck omen. And what they would do is, as they come and approach the flock of birds sitting and eating off the ground, if those birds would fly off veering to the left or veering to the right, there would be good luck or bad luck in any of the two, and then they would, in terms of their own disposition that day, they would then feel a sense of good luck or bad luck. So the ancient Arabs, the pagans, the superstitious Arabs, were filled, the culture was full of these charms, these good luck charms, bad luck practices which you don't do, things which you do. Maybe yourself, even when you can remember yourself those of you who are more older now, you could remember when you were a child. When I was a child, we used to have charms or bad luck omens. Omens, good omens, bad omens. And we would, they would say if a bee flies into the house, that's bringer of good news or bad news. If you spill salt, if you break a mirror, if you walk under a ladder. And I grew up hearing these tales, and people respected them. For some reason, people respected them. Although, I mean, the belief obviously had waned by our times. But in the times of the pagan Arabs, in the time when the Prophet conducted his message, these charms were absolutely central. In fact, good luck, bad luck charms and omens were very common until very recently. The European Enlightenment, to some extent, banished a lot of them and showed the world that we're living in a rational world. In fact, that is what the Qur'an did. The Qur'an 1400 years ago came to banish all the charms and all the omens, and it gave clear notice that you should not believe in these things. In fact, one verse in the Qur'an says, access your homes at the appropriate doors, and don't, do these senseless charms. All right. So coming to the Salah, I'm going to be a little bit frank now, and I ask you to, if you are easily offended, do not listen. Change the channel. We are here to learn, and Anwar is not here to make your life miserable or to make you turn you away from your deen. I'm a student. I'm somebody who is learning from the Qur'an every day. I've taken so much time, hundreds of hours, translating the Qur'an from Arabic into English, and every verse, I can promise you, as far as I am now, every verse has sent me to dictionaries, to ancient dictionaries, to other translations, has forced me to sometimes stay awake for many hours at night trying to get to the meaning of a verse. And I'm a student. I'm somebody who is trying to contemplate, to seek the meaning, to seek an understanding from the Holy Qur'an. Allah has given me an age, a ripe age, where I have a lot of life experience. He's given me sufficiency in terms of my own livelihood. He's given me comfort, the technology, the means to be able to do this work. And so this is what I do. This is what I do. And so I'm not here to cause problems. I'm not here to, become a kafir or murtad or something. And if that is all that goes on in your mind, then you shouldn't be watching. So here goes. Here goes for those who are still here. Muslims today have embraced the 5 pillars as good luck charms. And there I said it. Muslims today have taken the rituals of Islam as just similar good luck charms as the ancient pagans used to do it. So Salah, and I'm talking about the majority of people that I've ever met, including myself at a huge part of my life, it was something you have to do to keep off the bad omens, to keep away the bad juju. So you wouldn't think of skipping, because why? Because then you would be rejecting the way of the Prophet, the way of Allah, and you would make yourself liable to the anger of Allah. So the same with all other rituals. My mother, may Allah bless her soul and grant a high place in Jannah, she told me when I was a young man of 21, and I was very troubled, and I was in trouble with the law, and I was locked up a few times, and she told me, my mother told me, Anwar, go for Hajj and all your problems will go away, and you will be a new person. And at the young age of 21, I set off for my first Hajj to the holy, Haram, as we know it. And I went there, and that was my intention, to ward off all the bad juju, all the problems I had with the law, the incarcerations, etc., and to just get more good luck in my life. And so I say it again with a tinge of sadness and despair that Muslims have turned their rituals into good luck charms, unfortunately. And that I'm speaking from experience. So no longer is Salah or Hajj or Saum or Zakah something which has the effect of qurba, taqrib, qurba, nearness or oneness with your Creator. It now becomes a tool with which you want to be out of trouble in this world. So it's something completely different from what it was intended. The intention of these practices, and I will come to Salah just now, is not to keep you in good luck or keep you out of bad luck, but it is to create nearness, to create love between you and your Creator, and to foster love between you and your fellow human being. It is a glue, it is a cement. Zakah, which is translated and reduced to a 2.5% tax, although the 2.5% is not in the Qur'an, is really, the word zakah, everybody knows zakah doesn't mean tax. Zakah means purity. Everybody knows that. You ask anyone, you zaki, and the Prophet came to you zaki, to cleanse them. Right? Nafsu zaki, nafsu zakiya, a pure, a clean soul. That is, the word zakah means purity, cleanliness, hygiene, refinement. And yet we've reduced it to 2.5% tax. So in zakah it's very obvious, because we all know the word zakat doesn't mean tax. It's very easy when it comes to zakah. So why do we accept that it is being reduced to a tax when it is really about building refinement, building a refined society, building a pure society, building a clean society, building a moral society? That is the meaning of zakah. So with zakah, I think people are even prepared to say, look, yes, that is properly the meaning of zakah. Even with Hajj, you know, the word Hajj means to debate, to engage with, to argue. Everybody knows that the word Hajj. It's in the Qur'an where you Hajj, you know, they question you, they debate you, they engage you. Hajj. That everybody knows. So even with Hajj, people are prepared to accommodate the idea that Hajj maybe is more than just going there and throwing some stones and walking, you know, in around a building. And it should be, Hajj should be a place of engagement, of interaction, of debating with people all across the world. But the tough one, my friends, is the word Salah. They are absolutely unwilling. They are absolutely unwilling. You know, La ilaha illallah, Hajj, Saum, even Saum. You know, Saum, the fasting. I don't think we have a lot of disagreement on that. The Quran verses are very clear. Surah Baqarah, you know, Shahru Ramadan alladhi unzila fil Quran hudal linnas. The Salah is the problem one, my friends. Salah is the problem one. And in my previous video, when I spoke to this Halqa group from the northern part of South Africa, Johannesburg, Pretoria, I think I might have not fully explained myself. And there was a question that came up towards the end of that video, towards the end of that presentation, I think in the last 15 minutes. And the question was, Anwar, why did you choose this particular verse to illustrate the meaning of Salah is naqis, it is reduced, it is diminished. Why did you use this particular verse? And I think I just want to use the remainder of this video to clarify my position on why did I use this verse. You see, because I believe truly that Salah is much more than the ritual. And it is not even the same as the ritual. And where do I get that? I get that from the Qur'an. The Qur'an never spells out Salah. It never ever spells it out. It mentions it and it never spells it out. For that, you have to go to copious amounts of writing that were produced by scholars. Copious amounts of writing that goes into an absolutely, immense amount of detail and stupendous amount of detail about Salah. So much so that Salah is almost like dissected into the amount of detail that nothing else is dissected. I almost want to compare it to what you see in America with regard to human rights and respect. You see, because respect is such a big factor in America, they have over-defined, over-analyzed the concept. And they have also taken the concept down very, very obscure side pathways. So respect gets to the point where, if somebody says, I am a woman and they are a man, it is disrespectful to question them. Can you see what I'm getting at? Is that the over-analysis to the point where you reach a point of ridiculousness. You emphasize a concept to such a level that the concept becomes, you actually make it ridiculous. You become ridiculous in approaching that concept. Now, Salah similarly, because the scholars have been so, exuberant, so overactive, so energetic at defining it, where the Qur'an never defined it, they took it to the point of being ridiculous. So now, I know, for example, we had arguments, believe it or not, when I was spending some time in Egypt with some other students, they had arguments, not about the hands on the side or the hands on the stomach or the hands on the chest, because that's a massive debate, but on the posture of the finger in Salah. Do you keep your finger straight? Do you keep it crooked? Or do you actually move it? Or does it go up and down in the Salah? My friends, I'm not exaggerating to you. I'm not exaggerating to you. The amount of detail that people go into with regard to Salah. I remember one day I was sitting with a couple of friends, and the discussion was, and this was a bit tongue-in-cheek of this one sheikh. Also, I'm going to ask the children to skip a 30 seconds or so. So the sheikh is asking, who has the most right to lead the Salah? And the people say, the person who knows the most Qur'an. He says, yes. But if everyone knows the same amount of Qur'an, who then becomes the most rightful to leading the communal prayers? And then nobody knew. And somebody said the longest beard. And he said, yes, correct, that's the answer. He says, but now I've got a tough one for you. What if all of them have the same length of beards, and they have the same amount of Qur'an memorized? Then what then? And somebody said, well, the one who has the most beautiful recitation, he said, well, let's say they're all the same. He says, maybe the tallest guy? He said, no. They're all equally tall. Here comes the punchline. And then the sheikh says, what is the answer there? Is they should all pull their pants down and atwal dhakr. Atwal dhakr, sorry for this. But the one with the longest genitals, should have the most right to leading the prayers. And my friends, this was said tongue-in-cheek, but it was a learned man, and I'm not sure whether it is written in the fiqh books. But I'm trying to illustrate to you how ridiculous the scholars have made this concept of Salah. And I'm not here today because I'm tired of Salah, because I want to question Salah and so on. No, you know, I make Salah. It's a habit for me. But what I can't say to you is that Salah is described, is laid out in the Holy Quran. It's not. There is not even one verse that says Salah is this or Salah is that. This is how you make Salah, that is how you make Salah. And I believe I've shown in previous videos where I had the books with me, the Shafi'i fiqh books, the Kitabul of Shafi'i, that there is not one hadith that Shafi'i can lean on that gives a full description of the Salah. So they also cut and paste a lot of hadiths, and then they concoct or they construct a way that Salah is made. I'm actually more respectful of the Hanafi or the Maliki madhab, who don't even claim that there's a hadith. You know, the Maliki and the Hanafi madhab, they don't even claim there's a hadith to say how Salah is made. All they say is that this is the way we saw it being made. You see, so in Hanafi fiqh, they don't claim here's a hadith that says this is, no. Imam Abu Hanifa, having been a student of Imam Ja'far Sadiq, who was a fourth descendant of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam, fifth descendant. So there was Hassan, there was Fatima, then there was Hussein, then there was Zainul Abidin, then there was Muhammad Baqir, and then there was Ja'far Sadiq. So the fifth descendant of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam, Ja'far Sadiq, the son of Muhammad Baqir, was a very famous teacher. He was a very, very famous teacher. And what the Hanafis claim is that our teacher saw how Ja'far Sadiq performed Salah. Now we're talking about the year 110, 120, 130 after Hijrah, 150 maybe. So Salah precedes Bukhari. You see, the madhabs, Hanafi, Hanafi and Maliki, they precede the Bukhari. There was no Bukhari when Imam Abu Hanifa described the features of Salah. So my understanding of Salah that Abu Hanifa, Ja'far Sadiq and so on, which was kind of like set down that time, is that it is a convention or a practice of the community which they received at that time and which they passed on. And that is why when I do a ritual Salah, I follow the convention. Right, so I'm not of those guys who say that, no, stop it, don't do it, kill it. But at the same time, I cannot say to somebody, this is the way that Allah wants it. All I can say is, my friend, this is a convention that came from the fifth descendant of the Prophet, Ja'far Sadiq, whom he taught to one of his students, Abu Hanifa. And it is a convention of the community where he stayed, Medina, because that is how the Maliki mazhab is constructed. Is Imam Malik ibn Anas, or Anas bin Malik, Malik bin Anas, I'm not sure which one now. The one is a Sahabi, the one is a Tabi'i. So what Imam Malik did was that he basically looked at the practice of the people in Medina, and that is how he constructed his convention. He said, look, I see people standing, then they bend, then they bow, then they go down. This is the convention I will perpetuate or reproduce. And he recorded it in his book, you know, what is the book of Imam Malik? You can remind me in the comments, please. Anyway, here comes Imam Shafi'i 100 years later, and he now says, no, to say it's a convention is not enough, we need hadith. And so he goes and he gets hadiths, various disjointed hadiths. It's still before Bukhari, remember? Imam Shafi, Bukhari is not around yet. And he constructs what he thinks is a salah. And in his book, Kitabul which is the founding or the definitive book of fiqh in the Shafi'i mazhab, he then patches together hadith to construct the salah. So what he does is he basically knows, because he went to the world of Imam Abu Hanifa. He spent a good time in Kufa. He traveled there. He also went to Medina. He studied the Maliki mazhab. And he saw the convention, right? He saw the bending, standing, going down. But he said, look, but the ontology, the methodological basis on which they construct the idea of what salah is, the ontological basis of salah is weak. And he wanted to give salah a proper ontology. Now, yeah. And he thought that by bringing into existence this whole concept of a divine body of literature parallel with the Qur'an, so bringing this into existence, this divine parallel body of knowledge, will give salah a proper and sound ontology. It is so for the ontological, and I'm saying this word so you can memorize this word because it's very important in education that you know this word. So to offer salah sound and indisputable reality of being, because ontology is the study of being, of reality. So to give salah proper being or proper status, of proper existence or sound roots, it invented the idea of hadith as a secondary source of knowledge. My friends, this is information that I am offering you that nobody will offer you, because they are serving a madrasa, a school. They are serving their Wahhabi school of thought. They will be kicked out from their job. They will be, you see, Arthur Schopenhauer, one of the philosophers of the European Enlightenment. I like him, but unfortunately, he was an atheist, and he was the worst pessimist in history. But I still like his honesty and his rigor, his rigid way, his way of writing. Arthur Schopenhauer, actually, he argues that the most believable people, the most credible people, are people who don't produce knowledge because they are paid by a school or by an institution. So he himself was a wealthy businessman. Well, he inherited money from his parents, so he was well off, Arthur Schopenhauer, and he always had money and he never needed money, and so he was also a philosopher with money. And he argued that what I write because I truly believe it and I truly see it, and I don't write it because I'm paid a salary to produce this information. And today, in a time when you get scholars at universities producing material to satisfy the bursar, the guy who funds their studies, the Carnegie Foundation or the Rockefeller Foundation or the Kellogg Foundation, all these foundations are funding scholarships at university. And those who are the scholars, who are the supposed students who are doing their masters and their doctorates, they have to produce theses, work that agrees with what the Carnegie Foundation or the Rockefeller Foundation or the Kellogg Foundation or the Oppenheimer Foundation wants from them. And if they don't, then the scholarship is cut. Or they won't never get a job. They won't get tenure. They won't get a job as a professor. So I'm saying that what I'm talking to you, my friends, is not because I have tenure, because I'm protecting a job, because I am clear as daylight telling you what is the fact of salah. It is something that is not in the hadith. It is something that is not in the Qur'an. And it is something that has been created as a huge sort of charm in Muslim society. Let's come back to, I'm sorry I went on a bit there, but let's go back to the verse here that I want us to have a look at. Sorry, it's this verse here. Why did you use this verse, Anwar? That was the question I was asked last week. You see, it is because the level of detail, the level of irrational, uncanny, ridiculous detail with which people have twisted the understanding of Salah is very, very, very obvious in this Salah, in this verse. And let me explain why. You see, this verse, before, if you don't look at my translation, come, let us just look at the Arabic. Let us just look at the Arabic. Those of you who can read with me can follow. The top here, it says, وَإِذَا كُنْتَ فِيهِمْ فَأَقَمْتَ لَهُمْ الصَّلَاةَ فَلْتَقُمْ طَائِفَةٌ مِّنْهُمْ مَعَكَ وَلْيَأْخُذُوا أَسْلِحَتَهُمْ فَإِذَا سَجَدُوا. Right. The verse here, the Arabic clearly states when, and I'm going to use Arabic terms so that I get the point across to you. When, فَإِذَا كُنْتَ فِيهِمْ, when you are with them, when you are with your people, فَأَقَمْتَ لَهُمْ الصَّلَاةَ, and you have established, you have made, you have done, you form. Aqam means to establish, to form, to put together. As-salat. When you put together, when you establish as-salat. Let me just leave the Arabic for now. فَلْتَقُمْ طَائِفَةٌ مِّنْهُمْ. Let a section of them, ta'ifatun. Ta'ifatun means a section, a percentage, a part, a group, a selection of them. Minhum ma'aka, let them accompany you. Faltaqum, let them stand with you. Falya'khudhu aslikhatuhum, and let them hold on to their weapons, let them be armed. Falya'khudhu aslihatahum, let them be armed. Asliha means their weapons, their arms, their bows, their arrows, their spears, whatever they have, their swords. Let them keep it with them. فَإِذَا سَجَدُوا, now when they sajad, when they make sajada, now yes, I know you have a meaning in your head what sajada is. فَلْيَكُونُوا مِنْ وَرَائِكُمْ, when they make sajada, then let them go to the back. فَلْيَكُونُوا مِنْ وَرَائِكَتُمْ. Now, what this means is when they make sajada, when in the traditional meaning is when they go on their heads, let them then be at the back. Now, how does it make sense, first of all? When somebody is in sajda, how do they go to the back? How do they crawl on their knees while they're in sujood? How do they crawl to the back? The meaning is difficult to grasp, right? But that's not my point here. فَلْتَأْتِ طَائِفَةٌ أُخْرَى. Now let a second group or subdivision or contingent who did not make salah, وَلَمْ يُصَلُّوا فَلْيُصَلُّوا مَعَكَ, let them now make salah with you. فَلْيَأْخُذُوا حِذْرَهُمْ, and let them be on guard, وَأَسْلِحَتَهُمْ, let them be fully mobilized, fully on guard, and keep their weaponry, their arms with them. Now that is the meaning. I'm just going to confine myself to those two sentences. So the sentence here from the Qur'an is, this is what it is saying. If you go out on patrol and you have established salah, let one section of them salah with you, and when they bend down in sujood, and let them be armed, right? Let them be fully armed. When they bend down, or then when they make sajda, let them be at the back, let them go to the back, let them then occupy the rear. Let them occupy the rear, that is فَلْيَكُونُوا مِنْ وَرَائِكُمْ. فَلْيَكُونُوا مِنْ وَرَائِكُمْ. Let them occupy space to the rear then. And let the other group now, who has not yet made Salah, let them join you holding on to their arms. Here comes the point. I'm sorry to make this long, but last week I wasn't feeling very well. I mean, when I did the video with the brothers there, I wasn't feeling in top form, but alhamdulillah, Allah is great and He has restored me to full health, and for that I'm eternally grateful. So, here comes the question. This form of Salah is promoted by the scholars as a Salah of khawf. It is a Salah of fear. It is a prayer of fear. This is the question. Who are defending, who are supposed to defend those who make Salah? Here's the, you see, if a certain percentage of the group is joining the Salah and they are holding on to their weapons and they are armed, and the group at the rear is not armed, because obviously one group is armed, one group is not armed. Who is defending the people who make Salah? You see, the way I was taught at madrasa was that the group in the rear, they are actually looking out for the group in front. Can you see what I mean? The group in the rear are actually looking out for the group that is performing the prayer. But now, the group performing the prayer are facing the enemy, right? With the leader standing there, they're facing the enemy. So if the enemy attacks, why would the group that is not making Salah be at the rear? Because they are and being disarmed. If this is a Salah of fear, the group that is disarmed and at the rear should not be disarmed and at the rear. They should be between the Salah and the enemy, and they should be fully armed. Can you see what I mean? I hope you get the picture. The picture here is those who make Salah with the Prophet are facing the enemy and they are armed. The group that is not in Salah, they are at the rear and they are not armed. But this defies logic, you see, because the way I thought was, it's the group at the rear that is armed. The group at the rear is armed and they watch over the group that is making Salah. Isn't that how you were taught also? No, this is not what the Qur'an is saying. The Qur'an is saying the group that is in Salah should be armed. Which, if I had the time and the energy to make this difficult point, then I would have done it last week. So, maaf to the brothers there from Joburg and Pretoria, that I couldn't make this point so clearly as I'm making it now. Is the ayat simply doesn't make sense if you plug in the meaning that they are making a prayer. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Yes, you can make it make sense. If you think it makes sense, good on you. But to me, it doesn't make sense, my friends. The way it makes sense here is if the word Salah doesn't mean prayer, if the word Salah actually means a contingent, an observance, people who are doing their duty, people who are answering the call of duty. In other words, the verse here means إِذَا كُنْتَ فِيهِمْ فَأَقَمْتَ لَهُمْ الصَّلَاةِ. When you are with them patrolling the desert, patrolling the open terrain, and you have established a call of duty, you have called them to duty. That is the way it makes sense. Then you must break that contingent of 20 or whatever men into two groups, and never, because while you are out in the desert, you are out for 5 days. They are not out for 2 hours, my friends. The Prophet and his contingent are not out in the desert for 2 hours. When they go out on reconnaissance, they go for 3, 4, 5 days. And this verse is simply saying, when you've established a contingent, a group that is answering the call of duty, which what Salah is, answering the call of duty, let one contingent always remain fully armed who is with you. Let one contingent always remain fully armed with you. Never ever allow a time when the whole 20 of you are all relaxing, putting down your arms, abandoning your bags and your supplies, and maybe sleeping together or eating together, always retain one contingent to be in Salah. Now that Salah there, my friend, it doesn't make sense that it is a prayer. It makes sense that it is a on duty, that they are on duty, that they are in a state of observance, that they are in a state of mobilization. And that is what the proper meaning of Salah really is. It is to be attached, to be engaged, to be aligned, to be observant, to be dutiful. And that, my friends, is the only way these first few lines in this verse make sense. Yes, okay, like I said to those Shuyu who asked the question, we must allow people to read and have an understanding as they see fit, but at the same time, nobody can claim that their reading is the authority and that their reading is the mind of Allah. Nobody is in the mind of Allah. Only Allah knows the mind of Allah. We are subjects of Allah. We are seekers. We are those who are reflecting and pondering and making sense of the word of Allah. And my friends, it took me almost 50 minutes now to give you the full answer. I just didn't have the energy to do it last week. But this is a chapter or a verse that illustrates the problems related to seeing Salah as a mere ritual. And in this verse, when you see Salah in its broader concept as a sense, as a form of observance, which the Qur'an bears out, as a form of connectedness, as a form of being engaged, being on duty, answering the call of duty, it makes all the other occurrences where Salah appears more meaningful. It's like the word sabr. The word sabr appears in the Qur'an many times, and there's never a hadith that says this is how you make sabr, and this is how the farals of sabr, and this is what you should, The same with Salah is a concept. It is a broad concept. It means adherence, observance, being dutiful, answering the call of duty, being there, showing up, being part, giving your bit, doing your bit. That is the meaning of Quran. Alif Lam Mim Zalikal Kitabu La Rayba Fihi Hudal lil Muttaqin. This is the book, undisputed guidance, Hudal lil Muttaqin, those who are sensible, who use their discretion. Hudal alladhina yu'minuna bil ghaib, those who embrace the subliminal, the transcendent, the transcendental. يؤمنون بالغيب ويقيمون الصلاة, and who are dutiful, who are observant, who do their bit, who answer the call of duty. الذين ويقيمون الصلاة, answer the call of duty, being observant. My friends, I'm here again saying to you that we have diminished the concept of Salah, and it is up to us to go and fix what we have broken. Let's go back and fix what we have broken. Salah, these Saudi priests and all the others, they tell you that you're going to hell if you don't make Salah, and if you don't keep your arms like this and your fingers like that and your toes like that, and those were the longest, so and so must lead the prayers. They have ridiculed your religion. They've ridiculed your religion. The real meaning of Salah is answer the call of duty, being observant, following what God has laid out for you, being present when you are needed, being a good father, being a good husband, being a good wife, in the sense of doing what is required of you, being observant. And my friends, in this case, in the case of this verse, the call of duty was going on reconnaissance in the desert. The Prophet asked them, come, join me, I need you, 20 of you, to go and do a 3-4 day stint out in the desert. Join me. this is your salah, this is your call of duty. And my friends, if you see it, you cannot unsee it. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. But Allah always knows best. We are merely seeking His intended meaning. We are seeking an understanding. But if you look around you and you see a Muslim world that is in a mess, then there is something wrong. And my argument is there's not something wrong superficially with Islam. That is what your priests are trying to tell you. There's a superficial problem with Muslims not practicing. No, I'm saying there is a fundamental problem with our understanding of Islam. And that fundamental problem goes back to issues of ontology, of the reality of the being, the reality of what is hadith, what is sunnah. We don't disobey the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam. The fact is, he is not here. He is being relayed via mouthpieces. You see, it's almost like you say, those people who say if you don't believe in hadith, you don't accept the Prophet. What if somebody comes and he lies about your father and he tells you your father said you should give me the car? Are you disobeying your father, or are you disobeying that guy? It's so difficult for Muslims to get that simple fact through their heads. Hadith does not equal the Prophet. Hadith is an intermediary. It is a medium. You see, it is a medium. The Prophet is not alive to speak for himself, and neither have we got a signed document. Yes, we do have one signed document, and that is the Qur'an. So the Qur'an is the one preserved, signed and authorized document which the Prophet left, Muhammad alayhi salam, which the messenger of God left us. If there's any other document which he signed and had witnesses attest to it, yes, I would obey that. But to say to me that Abdul and Muhammad and Ahmad and Yas, they all said the Prophet said so, it's not the word of the Prophet. Bukhari speaks on his own authority, not on the authority of God. My friends, it's a lengthy video, but inshallah, I hope it's been of use to you. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.